My brother said I didn't deserve to go to his engagement party because I always tried to steal attention, and that only real family was invited, not the problematic daughter my parents adopted out of pity. I bought a ticket to Hawaii for the same day as the party, posted beach photos tagging all our relatives except him, and my phone blew up when they found out the bride had fled the altar after seeing his messages with my best friend. The text arrived at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, 3 weeks before what should have been the celebration of Marcus's engagement to Victoria. My phone screen illuminated the darkness of my bedroom with its venomous words. No preamble, no explanation. Just pure, distilled cruelty delivered through pixels and Wi-Fi. The message ended with a laughing emoji, as if his rejection of me was some kind of inside joke I wasn't sophisticated enough to understand. I read it 3 times, each word cutting deeper than the last. Marcus had always been golden. 6 feet 2 inches of athletic privilege, with the kind of jawline that made strangers do double takes, and a smile that could convince anyone of anything. Our parents, Richard and Susan Carter, had raised us in their sprawling colonial in Westchester County, where appearances mattered more than authenticity and family photos were staged performances rather than genuine moments. What Marcus didn't know was that I had spent the last 2 months listening to my best friend Rachel cry on my shoulder about the complicated situation she had found herself in. Rachel, with her cascade of red hair and perpetual victim complex, had confessed to me over wine that she was sleeping with someone engaged. She never said who. She claimed she loved him. She swore he was going to leave his fiancée. The classic delusion of the other woman, and I had listened with what I thought was sympathy, never imagining the betrayal was this close to home. I didn't cry. I didn't call him back. Instead, I opened my laptop and booked a first-class ticket to Maui, checking into the Grand Wailea Resort for a week-long stay that would perfectly overlap with his engagement party scheduled for next Saturday evening. The confirmation email arrived at 11:52 p.m., 5 minutes to completely remove myself from his narrative of perfect family celebration. What my brother couldn't see from his tower of self-importance was that I had already been collecting evidence. Not intentionally at first, but Rachel's confessions had started 3 months ago, around the same time Marcus's behavior toward me had grown increasingly hostile. The puzzle pieces were scattered across my memory, waiting to be assembled into a devastating picture. The next morning, I walked into my parents' kitchen with my phone already recording. Marcus sat at the breakfast bar, his laptop open to wedding seating charts, Victoria's Pinterest boards visible on a second screen. He didn't look up when I entered. "I got your text," I said, my voice steady enough to cut glass. He glanced up with theatrical annoyance. "Good. Then we understand each other. This party is for people who actually matter to Victoria and me." Our mother emerged from the pantry, arms full of imported coffee beans she insisted on grinding fresh every morning. "What text? What's going on?" I handed her my phone, watching her face transform as she read Marcus's message. The carefully maintained composure she wore like armor cracked just slightly around her eyes. "Marcus Andrew Carter," she began, but he cut her off. "Mom, don't. Emily has been making everything about herself since the day you brought her home. This is my moment. Mine and Victoria's. For once, can we have something that isn't contaminated by her need for attention?" The word contaminated hung in the air between us. I had been 7 when the Carters adopted me after my biological parents died in a car accident. They had been friends of the family, and Richard and Susan had stepped in when no other relatives came forward. Marcus had been 10, old enough to understand that his position as only child was being threatened, young enough to weaponize that resentment for the next 21 years. "I won't be attending," I said simply. "I'll be in Hawaii that weekend. Already booked." Marcus's smile was triumphant. "Perfect. One less chair to worry about." What he didn't see was my father standing in the doorway behind him, having caught the entire exchange. Richard Carter built his fortune in commercial real estate by reading people, by knowing when someone was bluffing and when they were revealing their true character. The look he gave Marcus in that moment could have frozen the Hudson River. Later that afternoon, I met Rachel at our usual coffee shop in the village. She looked radiant, practically glowing with the satisfaction of someone harboring a delicious secret. Her engagement ring, a modest solitaire from her boyfriend of 2 years, caught the afternoon light. "You seem happy," I observed, stirring my latte with deliberate casualness. "I am," she breathed. "Everything is finally coming together. I think he's actually going to do it, Emily. I think he's going to leave her." "The engaged one?" She nodded, biting her lower lip. I know how it sounds, but you don't understand what we have. It's real. More real than whatever arrangement he has with her. I let the silence stretch, watching her fidget with her coffee cup. Does he know you're engaged? We have an understanding, she said, which meant no. These things are complicated. What's his name? I asked, already knowing but needing to hear her say it. Rachel's eyes went wide, suddenly cautious. I can't tell you that. Not yet. Soon, though. Once everything is finalized. I reached across the table and took her hand, channeling every acting lesson from high school theater. Rachel, I'm your best friend. You can trust me with anything. I just want to make sure you're being careful, that he's being honest with you. She squeezed my fingers, tears forming. You're the only one who understands, Em. Everyone else would judge me, but you get it. You know what it's like to feel like you don't quite belong, to fight for your place. The irony was so sharp I could taste blood. While she was using my adoption trauma to justify her affair, she was sleeping with the man who most embodied that rejection. I smiled gently, playing the role of supportive confidant while my phone, propped against the sugar caddy with its camera facing her, captured every word. That evening, I started planning my social media campaign with the precision of a military operation. I scheduled posts to go live throughout the engagement party, each one carefully crafted to showcase paradise, while Marcus celebrated his doomed relationship. The first photo would be of my feet in the sand at sunset, posted exactly when guests would be arriving at the country club. The second would be a Mai Tai at the resort bar, timed for when speeches would begin. The third would be a panoramic beach view, tagged with every single family member except Marcus, set to post during what would have been the father-daughter dance. My cousin Jennifer called that night, her voice sharp with curiosity. Is it true you're not going to Marcus's party? I'll be in Maui, I confirmed. Because of what he said to you? Word traveled fast in the Carter family, particularly when it involved scandal. Because I'd rather spend a week in paradise than an evening celebrating a marriage that won't last 6 months. Jennifer sucked in her breath. Emily, what do you know? Nothing concrete, I lied smoothly. Just a feeling. You know how sometimes you can tell when something isn't quite right? When the pieces don't fit together the way everyone pretends they do? After we hung up, I knew she would spread that seed of doubt through the family network like wildfire through dry grass. The Carters thrived on gossip and speculation, and I had just given them both. Rachel texted me at midnight. Thank you for not judging me. You're the only real friend I have. I typed back, always here for you, followed by a heart emoji, while my other hand scrolled through the explicit messages she had shown me on her phone, the ones I had photographed weeks ago when she left the room to use the bathroom, messages where Marcus detailed exactly what he wanted to do to her, promises he made about their future together, complaints about Victoria being too needy and not understanding him. Marcus called the next morning, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. Mom says you told Jennifer the engagement won't last. I said I had a feeling. Is that a crime? You're trying to sabotage my wedding. I'm trying to enjoy a vacation, I corrected. What you do with your relationship is entirely your business. Though I'd be careful about who you trust, Marcus. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones we should watch most carefully. The silence on his end was beautiful. Somewhere in his mind, suspicion was taking root, but he was too arrogant to follow it to its logical conclusion. He hung up without another word. Victoria called an hour later. We had never been close, but she wasn't unkind to me the way Marcus was. She came from old money, the kind that didn't need to prove anything to anyone, and she carried herself with effortless grace that made her seem like she was gliding rather than walking. Emily, I heard what Marcus said to you. I'm so sorry. That wasn't okay. Thank you, I said, meaning it. Victoria didn't deserve what was coming, but she deserved the truth more than she deserved ignorance. I wish you would reconsider about the party, she continued. You're his sister. Family should be there. Victoria, can I ask you something? And I need you to be completely honest with me. Of course. Do you trust Marcus? I mean, really, truly trust him? The pause was everything. What kind of question is that? The kind that matters. Has he been distant lately? Working late? Taking calls in private? Emily, what are you trying to say? Nothing, I replied softly. Just that sometimes we don't see what's right in front of us until it's too late. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. After we hung up, I knew the seed was planted. Victoria was smart, educated at Princeton, with an MBA from Wharton. She would start looking, start questioning, start noticing the small inconsistencies she had been trained by love and hope to overlook. My flight to Maui departed on Thursday morning, 2 days before Marcus's engagement party. I checked into the Grand Wiley Resort with its sprawling pools and oceanfront views, immediately posting a photo of my lay greeting with the caption, "Sometimes the best family celebrations are the ones you choose for yourself." I tagged my parents, my cousins, my aunts and uncles. Everyone except Marcus. The comments started within minutes. My cousin Jennifer, "Living your best life." My Aunt Patricia, "Looks beautiful, sweetheart. You deserve this." My father, surprisingly, "Proud of you, Emmy. Enjoy every moment." That last comment would cost Marcus more than he could imagine. Richard Carter didn't throw around approval casually, and his public support of my absence was a message the entire family would decode. While I was checking tide schedules for the perfect sunset photo, Rachel was back in New York, spiraling. She sent me a flurry of texts. "He's being weird. Won't answer my calls. Says he's busy with party prep, but I know he's avoiding me. What if he's getting cold feet about us?" I responded with carefully calibrated sympathy. "Give him space. Big events make people stressed. If what you have is real, it will survive a few days of distance." What Rachel didn't know was that I had sent Victoria an anonymous email that morning. Nothing accusatory. Nothing that could be traced back to me. Just a simple message. "Check your fiancé's messages with Rachel Morrison. You deserve to know the truth before you marry him." I included screenshots. Not all of them, just enough. Marcus complaining about wedding planning. Marcus saying Victoria's family money made her boring. Marcus detailing a hotel encounter with someone whose responses were clearly not Victoria's. I didn't include Rachel's name in the actual messages, letting Victoria make that connection herself when she recognized the phone number. By Thursday evening, my phone was vibrating constantly with family group chat activity. Marcus had apparently become frantic, calling relatives to demand they boycott my social media, claiming I was having a mental breakdown and needed intervention, not encouragement. The problem was, my posts showed the opposite. I looked relaxed, genuinely happy, posing with my poolside margarita, and the sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. I looked like someone who had chosen peace over toxicity, freedom over forced family obligation. Jennifer called me Friday morning. "Victoria just canceled the engagement party." I sat up in my beach chair, forcing surprise into my voice. "What? Why?" "No one knows. Marcus is losing his mind. He showed up at Mom's house at 6 this morning, demanding to know if anyone had talked to Victoria. He thinks someone told her something about him." "Did someone?" I asked innocently. "Emily, did you do something?" "I'm in Hawaii, Jennifer. What could I possibly do from here?" But we both knew. Jennifer had been there for enough family drama to recognize my fingerprints when she saw them. "He's going to figure it out." "Let him," I said, watching a sea turtle surface near the shore. "I have nothing to hide. Unlike some people," Rachel called next, hysterical. "Victoria knows. She knows about us. She sent me the most vicious message, calling me every name, threatening to destroy my life." "How did she find out? Did you tell her?" "Rachel, I've been in Hawaii. How would I even contact Victoria? I barely know her." "Someone told her. Someone sent her proof. Our messages, Emily. She has screenshots of our messages." "Your messages with him, you mean? With Marcus?" The silence was spectacular. I had never actually confirmed that I knew who Rachel's affair partner was, and now she realized she had exposed herself. "How long have you known?" she whispered. "Long enough. Did you think I wouldn't figure it out, Rachel? The timeline, the details you shared, the way you described him. You were sleeping with my brother while he planned his wedding, and you told me about it like it was some romantic movie plot. You don't understand. We love each other. He's using you," I said flatly. "And you're too self-absorbed to see it. He hasn't left Victoria. He won't leave Victoria. Her family is worth $50 million, and Marcus has never met a dollar he wouldn't chase. You were just entertainment." "That's not true. Then why did he stop answering your calls? Why hasn't he left her to be with you? It's been 2 months since you started this. If he wanted you, Rachel, he would have chosen you." She was crying now. Harsh sobs that should have made me feel guilty but instead felt like justice. "The engagement party is canceled," I continued mercilessly. "Victoria knows everything. And when my family finds out that you were the one sleeping with Marcus, that you were willing to destroy his relationship for your own gratification, do you know what they're going to do? They're going to exile you. Every dinner party, every holiday gathering, every Carter family event for the rest of your life. You'll be the woman who betrayed Emily, who slept with her brother, who proved that everyone was right to be suspicious of outsiders. You can't do that. You wouldn't." "I don't have to do anything, Rachel. You did it all yourself. I just made sure the truth came to light." I hung up and blocked her number, then posted another photo. This time it was me holding a tropical drink at the resort's adult-only pool. Caption reading, "Cheers to truth, consequences, and knowing your worth. Some lessons cost more than others." Marcus called 60 seconds later. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to his rage-filled message with a smile. He knew, somehow, he had figured out that I was behind Victoria learning the truth, and he was unraveling. "You vindictive, jealous witch," he snarled into my voicemail. "You couldn't stand that I was happy, that I had someone, that people were celebrating me instead of pitying you like they always do. You're pathetic. You've always been pathetic. The pity adoption who never belonged and never will." I saved the voicemail. It would be useful later. My father called Saturday morning, his voice carefully controlled. "Your brother's engagement party has been canceled. Victoria left him. Apparently there was infidelity." "I'm sorry to hear that," I lied. "Emily, your mother found evidence that you sent information to Victoria. Screenshots of messages between Marcus and Rachel Morrison. Did Marcus confess to the affair?" "That's not the point." "Actually, Dad, that's exactly the point. Marcus betrayed Victoria. He betrayed her trust, her love, their future. I just made sure she knew the truth before she legally bound herself to a man who would cheat on her during their engagement. Would you have preferred she found out after the wedding?" Richard Carter sighed, and I could picture him in his study, surrounded by the law books and business journals that had shaped his worldview. "What you did was calculated. What I did was necessary. Marcus told me I didn't deserve to attend his party because I wasn't real family. He called me the problematic daughter you adopted out of pity. Should I have kept his secrets after he rejected me so completely?" Another long silence. "He said that to you?" "I have the text message. I have his voicemail from yesterday calling me a vindictive, jealous witch and a pity adoption who never belonged. Would you like me to forward them to you?" "Yes," my father said quietly. "I would." Victoria showed up at my parents' house on Sunday morning, the day I was scheduled to return from Hawaii. My mother called to warn me, her voice tight with an emotion I couldn't quite identify. "She wants to meet with you. She says she needs to understand what happened." I arrived at the house still tan from 5 days of Hawaiian sun, wearing casual elegance that made me look like I had spent the week at a luxury spa rather than orchestrating my brother's downfall from paradise. Victoria sat in my mother's formal living room, her usual polish dimmed by heartbreak. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her Cartier engagement ring was noticeably absent. "Thank you for meeting me," she said as I entered. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the effort it took. "Of course. I'm sorry for what you're going through." "Don't." She held up a hand. "Don't apologize when we both know you're not sorry. You wanted this to happen." I sat across from her, maintaining direct eye contact. "I wanted you to know the truth before you made an irreversible mistake. There's a difference." "You sent me those messages." "Yes." "Why? If you hated Marcus so much, why not just let him marry me and suffer the consequences?" "Because you don't deserve to suffer for his choices," I said simply. "You didn't do anything wrong. You fell in love with someone who turned out to be different than who he pretended to be. That's not your fault." Victoria's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "I loved him. I was going to spend my life with him. You loved who you thought he was. The real Marcus is someone who told his sister she wasn't real family, who cheated on you during your engagement, who was planning to marry you for your family's money while sleeping with someone else." "How long have you known about Rachel?" 2 months. She's my best friend. Or was. She told me about the affair without telling me who the man was, but I figured it out eventually. And you waited. You sat on that information until the perfect moment to detonate it. Yes, I admitted. There was no point in lying. I waited until you needed to know, and he deserved the consequences. Victoria studied me for a long moment. Your brother says you're vindictive and jealous, that you've always resented his success. My brother is a liar who got caught. Of course he's going to try to make me the villain in his story. Are you the villain? I leaned forward, my voice soft but clear. Victoria, I'm the person who saved you from making the biggest mistake of your life. If that makes me a villain in Marcus's version of events, I'll accept that title. But in your story, I'm the person who cared enough about the truth to make sure you knew it. She left shortly after, but not before handing me an envelope. Your brother gave me this. He said if I ever questioned him, I should read it. It's a letter detailing all the reasons you can't be trusted, all the ways you've manipulated situations to make yourself look good. I thought you should see what he's been saying about you. I opened the envelope after she left, reading Marcus's carefully constructed character assassination. 5 pages of examples where he claimed I had lied, manipulated, or created drama for attention. Most of it was distorted truth or outright fabrication, but it was written with enough conviction to be believable to someone who didn't know me well. The last paragraph was particularly venomous. Emily has never forgiven our parents for taking her in. She sees herself as a charity case and punishes everyone around her for her own insecurities. She cannot stand to see me happy because happiness is something she fundamentally cannot understand or achieve. This engagement party exclusion is just another example of her destructive patterns. I recommend limited contact for your own well-being. I took photos of every page, then filed the letter carefully in my desk drawer, evidence for later. Marcus tried to reach me 17 times that day. I ignored every call, every text, every attempt at contact. Instead, I posted one final Hawaii photo, this time from the plane heading home. Caption, coming back stronger, wiser, and completely at peace. Thank you, Paradise, for the perfect reset. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. What Marcus didn't realize was that by trying to exile me from his celebration, he had inadvertently created sympathy for me throughout the family. By being in Hawaii, looking happy and unbothered while his engagement imploded, I appeared to be the innocent party who had simply chosen self-care over family drama. The reckoning came on a Tuesday evening, 2 weeks after the canceled engagement party. My parents called a family dinner at their house, mandatory attendance for both Marcus and me. I arrived precisely on time, wearing the confidence of someone who held all the cards. Marcus was already there, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His usual polish was gone, replaced by wrinkled clothing and defensive posture. He wouldn't look at me when I entered the dining room. My father sat at the head of the table, my mother to his right. The formal placement was deliberate. This was not a casual family meal, but a tribunal. We've listened to both sides, Richard began, his voice carrying the authority that had built his commercial real estate empire. We've reviewed evidence, text messages, voicemails, third-party accounts, and we've made decisions about moving forward. Marcus sat up straighter, assuming this was his vindication. Marcus, you told your sister she wasn't real family. You excluded her from your engagement celebration with deliberate cruelty. You had an affair during your engagement and blamed Emily when your fiancé discovered the truth. Dad? She's the one who... I'm not finished. Richard's voice cut through Marcus's protest like a blade. You wrote a 5-page letter attempting to discredit your sister's character, filled with distortions and lies. You've spent 2 weeks calling family members trying to turn them against her, and you've shown zero accountability for your own actions. He slid a folder across the table to Marcus. That contains a revised trust distribution. Your inheritance has been reduced by 70%. The remaining funds will be held in trust until you complete meaningful therapy and demonstrate sustained personal growth, as determined by an independent evaluator. Marcus's face went white. You can't do that. I can, and I have. Your mother and I have spent 28 years watching you treat your sister as less than, as other, as undeserving of basic respect. We thought you'd outgrow it. We were wrong. Susan Carter, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. Her voice was soft but inflexible. When we adopted Emily, we promised to love both our children equally. We failed her by allowing your behavior to continue unchecked. That ends today. What about what she did? Marcus demanded, pointing at me. She destroyed my relationship. She sent those messages to Victoria. She revealed the truth. My father corrected. You destroyed your own relationship by cheating on your fiancé. Emily simply accelerated the timeline of consequences you deserved. I remained silent, letting my parents' words carry the weight. This wasn't my victory to declare. Furthermore, Richard continued, your position at Carter Enterprises is being reevaluated. You'll be transitioning out of the executive track and into a consultant role with significantly reduced authority and compensation. You're firing me? Marcus's voice cracked. We're right-sizing your role to match your demonstrated judgment and character. Consider it an opportunity for growth. My mother opened a second folder. Emily, your father and I want to apologize. For every time we dismissed your concerns about Marcus's behavior. For every time we asked you to be the bigger person instead of holding him accountable. For not seeing clearly what was happening in our own home. She slid the folder to me. We've revised our estate planning. You and Marcus now have equal inheritance rights, not the previous arrangement where he received preference as the biological child. Additionally, we're establishing a fund in your name for you to use as you see fit. It's not meant to compensate for what you've endured, but it's a gesture of our recognition. I opened the folder, seeing numbers that represented not just money but acknowledgement, validation, the tangible proof that I was valued equally. Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "This is insane. You're choosing her over me, your actual son. We're choosing fairness over favoritism," Richard said, "and accountability over excuses. If you can't see the difference, that's part of the problem. I won't accept this. I'll fight it." "You can try," my father replied calmly, "but the trust documents are ironclad, drafted by the best estate attorneys in New York. You'll spend your reduced inheritance on legal fees and still lose." Marcus looked at me finally, his eyes blazing with hatred. "You've destroyed everything. I hope you're happy." "I'm at peace," I corrected. "There's a difference." He stormed out, slamming the door with enough force to rattle the antique china in my mother's cabinet. The sound echoed through the house like punctuation on 21 years of dysfunction. After he left, my mother reached across the table to take my hand. "We should have done this years ago. We should have protected you better." "You're doing it now," I said softly. "That matters." Later that evening, alone in my apartment, I received a text from Victoria. "Thank you. I heard what happened at your parents' house. Your father called my father. They've known each other for years. He wanted to make sure I knew that the Carter family doesn't condone Marcus's behavior." I texted back, "How are you doing?" Better than I would have been if I'd married him. I found out there were at least 3 other women, not just Rachel. I'm getting tested for everything and seeing a therapist, but I'm also moving forward. That's all any of us can do. Your brother is telling people you're a psychopath who orchestrated his downfall out of jealousy. Let him, I replied. People who know me know the truth. People who don't know me don't matter. Rachel, I learned through mutual friends, had lost her fiancé when he discovered her affair. She had moved back to her parents' house in Connecticut, blocked on social media by almost everyone in our former friend group. The cost of her choices was steep and permanent. Marcus's career imploded beyond just our family business. Word spread through industry networks that he was unreliable, untrustworthy, damaged goods. The country club memberships, the professional associations, the social currency he had built his identity around, all of it evaporated as people distanced themselves from the scandal. 6 months later, I sat on my balcony overlooking Central Park, reviewing the marketing materials for my new consulting firm. My parents' gesture had been substantial enough to fund a complete career change, and I was building something entirely my own. My phone buzzed with a notification. Marcus had posted on social media for the first time in months, a vague message about surviving betrayal and rising from the ashes. The comments were sparse, and mostly from people who didn't know the full story. Victoria, meanwhile, had started dating a thoracic surgeon she met through friends. Her Instagram showed a woman genuinely happy, no longer performing for a camera, but actually living. She had sent me a thank you card on the 3-month anniversary of the canceled engagement party, with a simple message: "Best disaster of my life." Rachel tried to contact me once, through a mutual acquaintance. The message was long, full of apologies and requests for forgiveness, explanations about therapy and personal growth. I never responded. Some bridges, once burned, leave nothing worth rebuilding. My parents and I had dinner every Sunday now, a tradition that had somehow become more genuine in the absence of Marcus's presence. He still attended major holidays, but the dynamic had fundamentally shifted. He was no longer the golden child, and I was no longer the outsider. We were simply 2 adults navigating a complicated family history. The most satisfying moment came at my cousin Jennifer's wedding 4 months after everything imploded. I attended alone, confident in a dress that cost less than my Hawaii vacation, but felt more valuable because I had chosen it for myself. Marcus brought a date, someone young and impressed by his false charm, someone who didn't know enough to ask questions. During the reception, as I danced with my father to some classic Frank Sinatra, Marcus watched from his table with barely concealed bitterness. His date had abandoned him for the open bar, and he sat alone, surrounded by family members who no longer saw him as aspirational. "You did the right thing," my father said quietly as we swayed to the music. "Not just for Victoria, but for yourself. You refused to let his cruelty define you." "I learned from the best," I replied. "You taught me that real power isn't about dominance. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to accept less." Later, Victoria approached me near the dessert table, her new boyfriend trailing respectfully behind. "Emily Carter," she said warmly, embracing me like an old friend rather than the woman who torpedoed her engagement. "I want you to meet Daniel." The surgeon was kind-eyed and genuine, asking intelligent questions and actually listening to the answers. Watching them together, I saw something I had never seen with Marcus. Authentic partnership. Equal respect. Real love. Thank you again, Victoria whispered when Daniel stepped away to get drinks, for caring enough to tell the truth when silence would have been easier. You deserved better than what Marcus was giving you, I said simply. We both did, she replied. And now we have it. As the evening wound down, I left without saying goodbye to Marcus. He wasn't worth the energy or attention. Instead, I drove home with my windows down, letting the cool autumn air wash over me, carrying away the last remnants of obligation to someone who had never deserved my loyalty. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Proud of you, sweetheart, then and now and always. I smiled, saved the message, and kept driving into my future. The one I had claimed for myself by refusing to stay silent, by choosing truth over family dysfunction, by recognizing that sometimes the greatest act of self-love is letting people experience the full weight of their own consequences without cushioning the fall. Marcus would rebuild eventually, probably. He had resources and looks and the kind of privilege that usually found ways to reassert itself, but he would do it without my sympathy, without my forgiveness, and without ever again having the power to make me feel like I didn't belong, because I finally understood what my 7-year-old self had been too young to know. Belonging isn't something someone else grants you. It's something you claim for yourself by refusing to shrink, by standing in your truth, and by walking away from anyone who asks you to be smaller so they can feel bigger. The Hawaii photos still lived on my Instagram, permanent documentation of the moment I chose myself over his approval. Sometimes late at night, I scrolled through them, remembering the peace I felt drinking Mai Tais while his engagement imploded, not because I enjoyed his pain, but because I had finally stopped protecting him from himself. That was the real victory. Not his downfall, but my rise. Not his consequences, but my freedom. Not the family choosing me, but me choosing myself first and discovering that the family worth having followed naturally. Marcus lost everything trying to keep me in my place. I gained everything by refusing to stay there.